Welcome to Oakmont, Holly. Thank you so much for all of the wonderful fundraisers you've done for us. Did you know we did $30,000 last year?
I heard that. Boy, that warmed my heart.
Yeah,
That's fantastic.
Well, you just have done so much community work along with your legacy for singing. And I wanted to ask you, we're both kind of getting older. I was wondering.
You think?
I was wondering what you might want to be remembered for in terms of a legacy.
It's interesting because I've lately been thinking a lot about leaving a trail. The documentary that was made about my work called Singing for Our Lives feels like it's not contemporary or futuristic, but it's historic. It's a documentation of a time that happened. And the documents that are being made now are going to be more like Black Lives Matter and the rising of the new women's movement in Congress and all of that sort of stuff. So I feel like the film was really an opportunity to leave a trail.
Yeah.
I'm starting to understand that there's a difference between leaving a trail and leaving a legacy. Mm-hmm. And the latter is still got me thinking. What is the difference between just leaving the work around so that the next generation can find it, which is fantastic. We should all be doing that.
Right.
Doesn't have to be fancy.
Right.
They just need to stumble over it in a garage and go, oh my goodness, right?
I know we were here.
And know we were here. The legacy part is a more formalizing of a work, I think, and of a time. And so I'm not sure I can answer your question yet because I'm really thinking about it.
Well, the PBS special, I think, does leave more than a trail that they did on you recently. Mm-hmm. I mean, it kind of gives us some historical context and also remembering all the places that you have been and all the changes that this country has been through in the world. Yeah. So
I'm very happy that people in the audience feel themselves in it. You know, that it's not a vanity piece. That makes me very happy.
Yeah.
Jim Brown did a great job of holding true to that, I think. In terms of legacy, I'll get back to you on that.
Okay. All right. Okay, so I love so many of your songs, and our band actually performs some of your songs almost on every concert. And I wanted to know what your favorite one is. If you had to be remembered by one song 25 years from now, 30 years from now, what song would you want that to be?
I Am Willing.
Yes, me too. That is my very favorite. It gives me hope.
Yeah. And it was written because I kept trying to identify what is it I believe. I'm not a this, I'm not a that, I'm not a socialist, I'm not a that, and I kept thinking, why don't I have a word for that? And I realized because my vision of myself and my work and my compatriots and my nation, my world is bigger than a word. And then I came up with, I'm willing. I'm open and I'm willing. I want to be on this planet. And so I think that song probably identifies me more than any other song.
But you know what else it identifies? It identifies that we can work our troubles out. Mm-hmm. And there is hope for people who are divided to come together. Mm-hmm. And every time, I mean, to me, it's more powerful than a hymn. Mm-hmm. It's really, I think, you should be one of your proudest works. So.
Thank you. Yeah.
So one more question, and how do you keep yourself up during times of such social injustice, being so pervasive in certain periods of our country? It's not always ever perfect, but sometimes at worse than others. It seems like we're in a difficult period of this country. How do you keep yourself up during this?
Well, given that I'm not a journalist or someone who has to know what happened every day, I don't watch the news. Mm-hmm. I feel like the news media has a way of defeating me because they'll tell a story, but they don't tell the story of the people who were resisting that action. Right. They're only talking about the depressing part. So they might be talking about a refugee camp in Syria, but they're not talking about the spirited people in the camp who are creating schools and are trying to help each other with healthcare and are, yes, it's a horrific situation, but they don't talk about the resilience of humanity. So I don't really want one-sided news. I don't want just all the bad stuff. Mm-hmm. And interestingly enough, it seems I know enough news to keep going and being intelligent and have a conversation with people, but I just can't bombard myself. The other thing is to remember that our species has not been good since the start. I mean, this is not just of a Trump era.
Right.
We've been stoning people in the plaza since almost the beginning of time, right? And I just think it's important to remember that it's one of the failings of our animal. Something went wrong, you know, in our species. Something also went really right. I mean, you've probably heard me talk about that spectrum of extreme despair and brutality, and the other side, glorious love and affection and leadership. And I just try to wake up every day and decide where I want to be on that spectrum. And that's the best I can do. I can't solve all the world's problems, and I try not to think of myself as a fix-it person.
Yeah.
To really be loving and caring in the moment. I think the other thing is to remember that some of us come into this world to tie ourselves to the White House and protest and fast, and others of us come into the world to do Meals on Wheels.
Yeah.
And if one has the capacity to hurl oneself at the big stuff, it's an amazing way to live.
Yeah.
You know, it is. And if you don't, it's not a judgment not to.
Right.
It's someone who can do little things should do little things, you know. And if someone, all they want to do is keep giving their frequent flyer miles to a 22-year-old so they can go to conferences and be part of the new leadership. I mean, there's all kinds of ways to participate. And I find that the closer I get to something that's complex, the easier it is to tolerate it. The farther away from it I get, the more despairing I am. So I used to be present at interviews of people who had been imprisoned and tortured, and if I hear about that and I'm 100 miles away from it, I can't listen to it.
Yeah.
But if I'm sitting right there listening to the person telling me, it's an unbelievably different experience.
Yeah.
It's still horrific, but I'm engaged in it rather than disengaged. And engagement is very empowering and energizing.
And it probably inspires, I mean, I think your music inspires other people to do good things.
I hope so. I'll just tell one other story here, and that is that I was the first one to do a concert here at Oakmont with Rainbow Women.
I know.
And I think Sue said something like, "Oh, we don't know how to do a concert," and I said, "I'll teach you."
You really did. I mean, we got it down now.
You got it down now. And I'm really pleased that I got to jump in at the very, very beginning. So
You really helped us get off the ground.
good. So now I'm the one that's
Thank
interrupting
you
the
very
interview.
much. Going to the concert.
This is my piano player, so I think I should answer it.
Yeah, you should.
Thank you. Thank you.